KAL HALAL YAHAWAH. KAL HALAL YAHAWAH. BAHASHAM YAHAWASHI. BAHASHAM Rakadash. This is another digital epistle to the 12 tribes of Israel, scattered through all the four corners, but are primarily known as the Negro, Latino, Native, so-called, so-called West Indies, so-called Caribbean, so-called West African, so-called, double honors to the apostles, the men of GMS, preaching in truth and sincerity, and honor to any brother pushing them likewise adoption, and sister waking up in the last days and giving all praise to AHBAD Babal AHBAD. Man, especially these days, 'cause man, we're risking our lives, man. Risking our life. I just believe in that. Isaiah 13:17. Behold, I will stir up the Medes against them, which shall not regard silver, and as for gold, they shall not delight in it. Man, it's beautiful. Because there's one part I wasn't even thinking about yet.
We're hearing reports of new attacks across Ukraine, including in the capital city at this hour. We'll, of course, be monitoring those and tell you when we learn more. But first, on last night's show, we tried to bring you as straightforward an analysis as we could of the invasion of Ukraine. It was then in progress. It still is. The war at that point was less than 24 hours old, and it seemed disrespectful and wrong to use the deaths of people on the ground as a partisan cudgel. War is horrifying, of course, but it's also a grave and profound thing. You ought to stand back in awe for a moment before you start drawing convenient conclusions from the suffering you see. Death is a mystery. Acknowledge that. That's how we feel. Joe Biden's allies in the media do not feel that way. They use the opportunity to attack their political opponents immediately, as they always do. They have no restraint and no shame. We're grateful not to be them. So that was last night. Tonight, it's fair to note the obvious. The invasion of Ukraine is a humiliating defeat for Joe Biden. He's our leader. He staked this country's reputation, billions of dollars, and the full force of the U.S. government on preventing Vladimir Putin from invading Ukraine. Vladimir Putin invaded Ukraine anyway. And America is diminished by that. It's not the first time Joe Biden has done something like this. Less than 6 months ago, Biden oversaw an almost indescribably chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan. He left American citizens behind. He armed the Taliban with advanced weapon systems on the way out. It could not have been worse. So here you have two historic foreign policy debacles in under a year. Is there a precedent for that? What's the message of it? Well, weakness, obviously. Republicans often say that, but as usual, don't go far enough. Weakness? Well, North Korea is weak. They literally have famines. People starve to death in North Korea. That's weakness. But they're still a nation we have to contend with because they bite. A venomous spider is weak. You can crush it, but you're still afraid of it because it bites. We do not bite, and that's the problem. We're not simply weak. The United States government under Joe Biden is ridiculous. It's pompous, it's self-involved, it's long-winded and fatuous. It's not so different from the fading old man who leads it. There's no hiding this. The rest of the world sees it clearly. So do many Americans. If watching the invasion of Ukraine this week made you feel a little sick, this is probably why. Of course, you felt sorry for the Ukrainians being killed, but you also sense that this was a genuine disaster for us in America. And you're right, it is. Joe Biden is quickly draining the reservoir of America's credibility and power that has accumulated over centuries of wise decision-making. Like the U.S. Treasury, this is not Joe Biden's capital to spend. He is squandering something that others made. How much is left at this point? I hate even to think about it. Someday we're going to find out. So the problem here isn't complicated. Joe Biden broke the oldest rule of all. Don't make threats you can't back up. You'd think he'd know that if he'd actually squared off against Corn Pop at the public swimming pool in Wilmington 60 years ago. But he never did. So he doesn't know that if you say something serious, you had better mean it. It is reckless to tell obvious lies. If you do that before long, and it happens very quickly, in fact, people figure out that you can be ignored. You're not a superpower. You're a joke. And that's why you never, under any circumstances, say anything like this.
The purpose of the sanctions has always been and continues to be deterrence. But let's also recognize the unique nature of the sanctions that we have outlined. These are some of the greatest sanctions, if not the strongest, that we've ever issued.
The president believes that sanctions are intended to deter.
As to the sanctions, the most important thing we can do is to use them as a deterrent, as a means of dissuading Russia from engaging in further aggression.
Now, if you saw the date,
The administration that wants to ban us from owning AR-15s just handed over 359,000 rifles, 126,000 pistols, and 6.
Man, this wasn't even a part of the lesson, but man, this is actually hilarious. This is so true.
24,000 machine guns to the Taliban.
Hell yes, we're going to take your AR-15, your AK-47.
Yeah, unless you're a terrorist, then we'll send you one in a gift box for free. Joe Biden would rather arm the Taliban with AR-15s than allow American citizens to lawfully own them. And guess what the Taliban's first order of business is after taking control of Afghanistan? They're telling all citizens to turn in their guns within a week. Sound familiar? History makes one thing clear. Oppression begins when you have full control over the people.
Yeah, I thought they were going to go with Ukraine.
You notice those clips are from recently.
That's what we're talking about, Ukraine.
In some cases, just days before Vladimir Putin showed precisely how meaningless our sanctions actually were. The greatest sanctions ever, said Kamala Harris, wearing her stupid little mask on Monday. She's a buffoon. You knew that. Now it's obvious that...
See, when Donald Trump would use words like, oh, the greatest sanctions ever, the biggest crowd ever, the biggest da-da-da-da, it was a sign of unintelligence. What is it for Kamala?
buffoonery is a real peril for the rest of us. No one in the White House seems to understand this. It's like the most obvious lesson. So here was Joe Biden from today telling you that actually these sanctions, the greatest, most deterrent sanctions ever, were never intended really to deter anything. Sorry if you took it seriously the first time. We didn't really mean it.
No one expected the sanctions to prevent anything from happening. It has to show, this is going to take time, and we have to show resolve so he knows what's coming. And so the people of Russia know what he's brought on them. That's what this is all about.
Who gives him these scripts? Do they not think we have access to YouTube? Or maybe they're just hoping Google will scrub it by the time he holds another press conference. You just told us on Monday that the purpose of these sanctions was to deter the invasion of Ukraine. So at the very least, acknowledge they didn't work as intended. They can never acknowledge that. Oh, the vaccine prevents transmission and infection. Just tell the truth. People will understand, but they lie every time. Now they're telling us, Putin knows what's coming. We'll get him next time. Right? No one believes you anymore, Joe Biden. No one should believe you. It is very hard to take unserious people seriously. A serious president who cared would have reassessed everything, America's foreign policy and how it's administered, after the Afghanistan withdrawal last August. That was a disaster. So a responsible person would have asked himself, how do we prevent this from happening again? That's how responsible people think. It's how leaders who care about their countries think. Of course, it's the baseline requirement for leadership. This was a disaster. How do we prevent it from happening again? That's not hard. But lifetime federal employee that he is, Joe Biden did the opposite of that. His first instinct was to protect the bureaucracy, not the country, the bureaucracy. So not a single person from the Pentagon or the State Department was fired or even reprimanded. In fact, famously, the only person who was punished in the end for that historic debacle was a Marine colonel who complained about it. He went to jail for complaining. And you will see the same response this time, after the disastrous invasion of Ukraine. The American officials who so publicly trashed this country's credibility will be promoted for it. They always are. Toria Nuland was one of the geniuses behind the Iraq War. That was almost 20 years ago. Did that hurt her career? It should have. It should have ended her career. In place, right then. Go do something useful. Learn how to lay tile. But it didn't end her career. In fact, her career accelerated. In fact, this same person, Toria Nuland, went on to help lead the Ukraine debacle we're watching now. She's completely unqualified for the job she has. We knew that 20 years ago. And yet she's highly successful in Washington. Someday she'll probably be the Secretary of State. Remember her name, Toria Nuland. She'll be rewarded for failing. Meanwhile, people who criticize Toria Nuland, or who care enough about this country to critique Joe Biden's foreign policy disasters, find themselves denounced in the media as, of all things, traitors to America, and then spied on by the NSA. You see how that works? It's all self-protection, and because it is, only buffoonery is rewarded. And that's exactly why John Kerry is still around. Here's John Kerry telling the BBC, in public, on camera, that the real victim of this war is something called the climate.
Massive
Man, and I remember talking to my friend, man, a Nigerian, you know, Igbo, a Hebo, if we're gonna, Ibar, if we're about to be, I think the word's Ibar for Eber, or Ibar, I'm not sure. But you know, if you look at the slave maps, because you know white people can't pronounce, not slave maps, slave trade, the slave trade posters in West Africa described them as Hebos, you know. You know, white people can't speak, and you know, they were selling the Hebrews, man. But I remember we were talking about, man, when I was still asleep, when I was dead, you know, we're talking about, man, imagine what world we'd be in right now if John Kerry was president. John Kerry won, and the world would be a better place. But man, we know right now, John Kerry could have never won, because if John Kerry had won, when we would know it won all this climate hoax and cap, we would not we would have not have, like, our climate would be in such a better condition if because it's funny because they act like the climate damage is irreversible. If we act now, it's irreversible, right? Like, if we don't act now in 20 years, if we're 20 years too late, it's irreversible. But if we start working on climate 20 years earlier, it would have been Gucci, like, you know. But what I'm saying, like, when I was still sleeping, I thought this man was good. Like, we're talking about how, man, what if George Bush lost and he won, we'd just been in a better place. But now look at these people, man. Clearly, y'all probably already know if y'all woke up before me, but man, we see how these people are just idiots, man. These people are not leaders, and they're leading to the destruction of America.
Consequences to the war, but
and the thieving of our rights.
Really importantly, you're going to lose people's focus. You're going to lose certainly big country attention because they will be diverted, and I think it could have a damaging impact. So I hope President Putin will help us to stay on track with respect to what we need to do for the climate.
And of course, he flew private to that interview, hoping nobody noticed, not caring if anyone noticed. Like, what's the explanation behind? How could you say something like that? That clip is real. We didn't make it up. It's hard to believe it, but it is real. It's all real. If you did a nationwide search for the people least capable of leading a large nation through complicated times, you would get our leadership class. You would get John Kerry. Oh,
the Edomites, man. What does the Bible say? Ecclesiastes 10:2. As the judge of the people is himself, so are his officers, and what manner of man the ruler of his city is, such are all they that dwell therein. And the reason why you can't find a worse group of leaders is because you can't find a worse group of people. And that's the real thing. You cannot find a worse group of people than the Edomites. You cannot find the worst. So picking one out, the Edomites, you're going to have the worst leadership.
oh, we found him. The search is over. And of course, at the very top of that list would be John Kerry's friend, Hillary Clinton. So here's Hillary Clinton revealing the real story. She's telling you that the actual enemy in this war is not in Russia, not in eastern Ukraine. It's not Vladimir Putin. It's you. The real enemy of this country is anyone who dares to criticize the mismanagement of Hillary Clinton and her friends. Watch.
I think it's time for what's left of the Republican Party that has any common sense, not just to say, okay, go help defend Ukraine against Putin, but to stand against those people in politics and government, in the media and elsewhere in our own country who are literally giving aid and comfort to an enemy of freedom and democracy. It can't continue because it plays right into the ambitions of not just Putin, but also President Xi of China to undermine democracy, to literally divide and conquer the West without ever invading us, but by setting us against each other.
Your opinions are the real threat to democracy. Dare criticize us, and we will denounce you as a dangerous traitor, because that's democracy. So Vladimir Putin invades Ukraine, but guess whose fault it is? It's your fault. Notice the theme here? It's always your fault. Every single time. And they're going to punish you for it. Hillary did say one interesting thing in that clip, probably inadvertently. She didn't say it, but the illusion was there. Russia and China are now aligned as a bloc against the United States. Now, how'd that happen? It's pretty obvious. You're looking around the world, you're thinking, who are the big powers with meaningful economies and nuclear weapons? Maybe they shouldn't be aligned against us. That's just the simplest kind of math. Maybe we shouldn't do anything that pushes our enemies into a block, because that threatens us. But they don't know that that's happening, or maybe they're in favor of it. God knows what the Biden administration is thinking. According to the New York Times, quote, the United States met with China over 3 months to present intelligence showing Russia's troop buildup near Ukraine and to urge Beijing to help avert war. Chinese officials rebuffed the United States and then shared that information with Moscow. Yeah.
Because, you know, Biden is sold out to China, Beijing Biden. Yeah, I love to call him Jim Crow Joe, but Beijing Biden hard too. Yeah. But it's done. They're done for.
So we went to China for help to prevent Putin from invading Ukraine at the very moment that Russia and China were forming a very public alliance against us. Did that really happen? Apparently it really did happen. How long can this go on? And maybe that's why Biden didn't mention China during his press conference. He gave them our intelligence, and they gave it to Putin. Perfect. But don't mention that, or you're a traitor.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most
take time, and we have to
really mean it.
No one expected the sanctions to prevent anything from happening. This is going to take time, and we have to show resolve, so he knows what's coming, and so the people of Russia know what he's brought on them. That's what this is all about.
Who gives him?
Shall the throne of iniquity have fellowship with thee, which frameth mischief by a law? Yeah. So Esau Edom, shall Idumea, shall America, shall the throne of iniquity? Man, what has robbed more than America outside of history? What has gained more wealth throughout slavery, through deceit, through misinformation, through poison masses, medication, medicine, through poison, yeah, using their robbery by democracy, going into countries, signing terrible loans that they know the country can't pay back, so they can steal all their resources. Steal the resources to people in poverty, or they kill the leader and put in a new leader that they can control. So they have fellowship with thee. Ukraine really trusted them. Like, shall they have fellowship with thee? I'm gonna read this verse again after I play this quick.
Let's now bring in Rebecca.
Ukraine, man, they set up Ukraine for this war.
Night address, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky said his country was left alone to fight Russia after the Kremlin launched a full-scale invasion. Also warned that Russian sabotage groups had entered the capital, urged residents to be vigilant and observe curfew rules. Listen in.
І друге, ми залишаємось наодинці у захисті нашої держави. Хто готовий воювати?
Listen in.
І друге, ми залишаємось наодинці у захисті нашої держави. Хто готовий воювати разом з нами? Чесно, не бачу таких.
Okay, I'll read this. I guess it is.
Наодинці у захисті.
But there is a second thing. We are alone in defending our nation. Who is ready to fight with?
Нашої держави. Хто готовий воювати разом з нами? Чесно.
Who's ready to fight with us? I believe that's what I was saying. I do not see anybody who is ready to give Ukraine the guarantee to join NATO. And if they do that, woo, man, Pusha P, man, Mr. Pusha P, Putin, man, he ready, man, and he ready, man. He got the missiles. He already got the nukes ready. He got his what do you call it, nuclear silos or whatever. I don't know the place he got, but he already got the nukes ready, man. The man's not playing, man. Man, if Yahushua didn't have the angels, right now, he didn't have the Edomites in the street bag right now. The Lord would have to come early. That's how, man, that's how, Putin ain't playing, man. Putin been doing this for 20 years. Putin has not been playing about his missiles. He's not been playing about turning America and NATO into desolate wilderness. Man, these people been wild for too long, bro. That's the biggest thing. I know that, we're the ones who are woke. We're the ones in the truth. We're the ones in this truth, and we're the only ones that really know, and everyone else is really just walking in darkness. For the most part, even the people who are woke, man, as soon as they saw Russia-Ukraine, man, they was back on the media side, man. But what was I gonna say? Yeah, Russia already got its hand over the button. They're ready, man. And we know we have reports that the Angels had to shut down, had to been deactivate nukes because, man, we know this is Edomites. How hasn't this got? Yeah, how hasn't there been a nuclear bomb dropped? In Nagasaki, Hiroshima, those were atomic. How hasn't there been one at least by accident, man? NATO's own allies, even the NATO allies, the NATO members who are allied with Ukraine, man. I mean, they send more now. They send weapons. They'll give a country weapons to buy. Give a country money to buy weapons. Whatever they'll give them weapons, of course, because whatever creates the atmosphere of war gives them more money. But Germany gave these people like 100 or 1,000 helmets. Man, because we know Germany and Russia are linked together through the Nord Stream 2 pipeline. And it's like, man, this is what happens when you listen to America. Shall the throne of iniquity at fellowship with thee? They set them up for the war. They put weapons in their backyard, trying to make them a NATO member. Russia said, hey, you wanna Russia try to compromise, Russia try to have meetings, man. They just didn't care, man. They kept sending weapons to Ukraine and Poland. Man, so Putin said, forget this, man. Forget this, man. Get ready.
Не бачу таких. Хто готовий дати Україні гарантію вступу до НАТО?
Everyone is afraid.
Чесно. Всі бояться.
WION is now available in your country. Download the app now. Get
Man, shall the throne of iniquity have fellowship with thee, which frameth mischief by a law? No, man.
Let's now bring in Rebecca Koffler, who is a U.S. intelligence in Russia. And Rebecca, I'm just looking at a map of Ukraine right now and the explosions that have been heard around the country in Kharkiv, Mariupol, Odessa, and Kyiv. That means that there are explosions in the north, east, south, and central Ukraine. Are you surprised by the strategy from Vladimir Putin, and what is his next move?
Oh, I'm absolutely not surprised. This is something that Putin has been planning for the past 20 years. It's part of a larger master plan to ensure that post-Soviet states are returning back under Moscow's control. And so this is what we are seeing right now unfolding is Putin's playbook. What I expect next is massive cyber attacks, electronic warfare, space warfare, air and missile bombardments of key military command and control government targets. And I would not even rule out a decapitation strategy to force Zelensky to flee. That is how Putin operates.
Putin warned that interference with Russia's invasion would lead to, quote, consequences you have never had in your history. Rebecca, what does he mean by that?
This was clearly a threat that Putin articulated last night in his speech in which he authorized, and I quote, special
For he is the harbinger of death.
There can be no peace in the world until the military power of Japan is destroyed, with the same completeness as was the power of the European dictators. To do that, we are now engaged in a process of deploying millions of our armed forces against Japan in a mass movement of troops and supplies and weapons over 14,000 miles, a military and naval feat unequaled in all history. Substantial portions of Japan's key industrial centers have been leveled to the ground in a series of record incendiary raids. What has already happened to Tokyo will happen to every Japanese city whose industries feed the Japanese war machine. If the Japanese insist on continuing resistance beyond the point of reason, their country will suffer the same destruction as Germany. Our blows will destroy their whole modern industrial plant and organization, which they have built up during the past century and which they are now devoting to a hopeless cause. We have no desire or intention to destroy or enslave the Japanese people, but only surrender can prevent the kind of ruin which they have seen come to Germany as a result of continued useless resistance.
Returning from the successful Big Three meetings, the President reports on the startling developments that seal Japan's fate.
We are now prepared to destroy more rapidly and completely every productive enterprise the Japanese have in any city. We shall destroy their docks, their factories, and their communications. Let there be no mistake. We shall completely destroy Japan's power to make war. It was to spare the Japanese people from utter destruction that the ultimatum of July the 26th was issued at Potsdam. Their leaders promptly rejected that ultimatum. If they do not now accept our terms, they expect a rain of ruin from the air, the like of which has never been seen on this earth. Behind this air,
they may expect a rain of ruin from the air, the likes of which has never been seen on this earth.
Will follow sea and land forces in such numbers and power as they have.
That's what I want to do. Go back.
That Putin articulated last night in his speech, in which he authorized, and I quote, special military operation against, he said, eastern Ukraine. He's basically telegraphing to the United States and NATO to stay out of it. And if they don't, Putin has prepared a 5-point plan in which he would go all the way to a shooting war with the U.S. and NATO, including launching nuclear strikes in Europe. And that is a de-escalatory strategy in Putin's mind. And we knew that in the intelligence community, and unfortunately
in Kharkov, Mariupol, Odessa, and Kyiv. That means that
nuclear strikes as a deterrent, man. As a not deterrent, as a de-escalating, man. You know this, man.
Explosions in
KAL HALAL YAHAWASHI, your side, man. You should be getting joyous. You should be rejoicing. You should be getting happy, man. When you hear things like this, you should be overflowed with joy, man. What really makes you happy in this life, man? Yeah, you got kids. You really can't even really enjoy them. You have a woman. Mad the neck or woman. She might be doing right by you. Probably not, man. Even if you do, man. Even if you got a woman, you love her and you make her happy, man. Do something and let you smile, man. Let you just look at your phone and smile, man. Let you do something that's not her, not based on her. This is not all, but let you do something that makes you happy, and her not be the source of it, and watch her get upset and try to ruin it, man. Even if you feel like the shorty who love you can still do that to you, man. That's how weird they are, man. That's how much witchcraft is under them, man.
North, east, south, and central.
This is something that Putin has been planning for the past 20 years. It's part of a larger master plan to ensure that post-Soviet states are returning back under Moscow's control. Warfare, space warfare, air and missile bombardments of. What I expect next is massive cyber attacks, electronic warfare, space warfare, air and missile bombardments of.
It does not sound how they're talking about air, land, and sea.
Military command and control government targets, and I would not even rule out a decapitation strategy to force Zelensky to flee. That is how Putin operates.
Putin warned that interference with Russia's invasion would lead to, quote, consequences you have never had in your history. Rebecca, what does he mean?
Consequences that you'll never have in your history.
They have not yet seen that ultimatum. If they do not now accept our terms, they may expect a rain of ruin from the air, the like of which has never been seen on this earth. Behind this air attack will follow sea and land forces in such numbers and power as they have not yet seen, and with the fighting skill of which they are already well aware.
Mean by that?
This was clearly a threat that Putin articulated last night in his speech, in which he authorized, and I quote, special military operation against, he said, eastern Ukraine. He's basically telegraphing to the United States and NATO to stay out of it. And if they don't, Putin has prepared a 5-point plan in which he would go all the way to a shooting war with the U.S. and NATO, including launching nuclear strikes in Europe, and that is a de-escalatory strategy in Putin's mind. And we knew that in the intelligence community, and unfortunately, our Washington security establishment has not prepared for this, and this is a real tragedy.
Okay, so just to follow up, you are saying that Putin's threat to the U.S. and NATO countries isn't just, I'm going to attack you cyber-wise if you interfere. You say he is threatening actual man-on-man, woman-on-woman, person-on-person combat, correct?
That is absolutely correct. This is exactly what my book is about, Putin's playbook, Russia's secret plan to defeat America. Putin has developed a very sophisticated strategy that the Russians call asymmetric or new generation warfare. And if the Russian intelligence interprets or even misinterprets U.S. and NATO actions as offensive instead of defensive, then Putin can authorize a preemptive doctrine, which includes both kinetic and non-kinetic options.
We're hearing that the EU is going to hit Russia with a sanctions package like they've never seen before. The U.S. is also going to announce additional sanctions. You are saying some pretty scary stuff right now. How can what you're saying be avoided?
Unfortunately, Carly, we're at the 11th hour right now. The sanction policy has been quite foolish and really not grounded in reality. The same people who have been crowing that Russia is a gas station masquerading as a country and the Russian GDP is the size of Italy somehow expect that sanctions are going to stop Putin from executing his master plan that he's been hatching for 2 decades. Well, that's not how it works. The amount sanctioned is minuscule. Russia's GDP is $1.48 trillion. And this is not something that is going to make a difference. And besides, Putin has been sanction-proofing his economy ever since the first sanctions hit Russia back in 2014 after he chopped off Ukraine's Crimea.
Okay, Rebecca, then what does stop Putin at this point?
At this point, unfortunately, short of risking going to war with Putin, I'm very worried to say that nothing will stop him because, again, Putin has been preparing for 2 decades for this, and he's been watching very carefully.
We're going to go back to reading
2014 after he chopped off Ukraine's Crimea.
Okay, Rebecca, then what does stop Putin at this point?
So let's listen to the sanctions.
It works. The amount sanctioned is minuscule. Russia's GDP is $1.48 trillion. And this is not something that is going to make a difference. And besides, Putin has been sanction-proofing his economy ever since the first sanctions hit Russia back in 2014 after he chopped off Ukraine's Crimea.
Okay, Rebecca, then what does stop Putin at this point?
At this point, unfortunately, short of risking going to war with Putin.
Behold, I will stir up the Medes against them, which shall not regard silver, and as for gold, they shall not delight in it. They don't care, man. Do not delight in it, man. They don't care, man. They do not care. China's not doing this, because China and Russia, they're good together. China gonna make up for anything that Russia has. And honestly, man, if China did the same model that they do with America with Russia, it'll probably work out better for Russia because Russia's actively not trying to. I assume Russia's not trying to create poverty in their own system as much as America, man. And they probably don't have the prison industrial system that big.
All the news on the move.
Micah 2. Woe to them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds. When the morning is light, they practice it, because it is in the power of their hands. They covet fields and they take them away with violence in the houses and take them away. So they oppress a man and his heritage. They oppress a man and his house, even a man and his heritage. Thus saith the Lord, BAHASHAM YAHAWASHI, behold, against this family do I devise evil, against the Edomite family, man. From which shall not remove your necks, neither shall ye go haughtily, for this time is evil. In that day shall one take up a parable against you, and lament in a doleful lamentation. and say, we be utterly spoiled. We have changed the portion of my people who hath he removed it from me. Turn away, he hath divided our fields. Habakkuk 2:5. Ye also because ye transgresseth by wine, by that strong philosophy, that strong drink. And you're seeing the Ukrainian one that he's pushing. Oh, pray for Ukraine. Oh, let's hit them with the sanctions. Oh, we're gonna hit them with the sanctions to stop it. It sounds like you're just gonna sanction him anyway. And you're just been hitting him with the same. It's like man, if you punish your kid the same way, what you gonna do, man? That's like my mom, man. When the belt stopped hurting so much, she switched straight to that cord, man. Because man, when you have a kid and all you just do, you go, I'm gonna take away your phone, I'm gonna take away this, I'm gonna take away this, every time. Eventually that one thing goes start can't. Oh, you won't take it away anyways. Ha. He is a proud man, neither keepeth at home, or who enlarges his desire is hell, and is as debtor cannot be satisfied. But he gathered unto him all nations, and heapeth unto him all people. That's what he's done. He heapeth all nations. He heapeth Ukraine and put him in a situation. But the plan was not really to support them. He put sanctions. Oh, he said, "Oh, tell Russia, I'm gonna sanction them. They're not gonna go to war. Oh, I'm gonna sanction them." He's told, "Oh, sanction them. We know the sanctions won't go stop." Now they're saying, "Oh, we need to join NATO. We need to join." They want that smoke, man. If they really wanted you, they wanted you to join NATO. But if they're really willing to make you a member of NATO, they would have put the weapons in before Putin went in there, man. So ye shall not pollute the land wherein we are, for blood it defileth the land, and the land cannot be cleansed of the blood that is shed therein, but by the blood of it that shed it, man. Man, all the murdering that it took to get Ukraine, all the murdering and pillaging that it took, all the murder of the so-called Negroes, of the Moors in Europe. It's getting sad. Don't get too emotional, man. We pray for the elect. I could throw prayers for the elect in Ukraine. I'm sure, man. I'm sure it's hard. It's hard for individuals. It's hard for people, But in praying for the whole Ukraine, having my humanitarian prayers, man. Remember when I was a kid, I used to pray for every sick person in the hospital. I hope they all get my humanitarian prayers, man. Man. Esau, man, he enlarges his desire so high, man. That anyone who is in league with him, the only thing you can do is die. That's it. That's all you can do is die. Revelations 7:14. And these shall make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb shall overcome them, for he is the Lord AHBAD Yahawashi. He is the Lord of lords and the King of kings. He's the AHDAWAM. He's the AHDAWAM Malak Malakiam, I believe. That's what he said. And they that are with him are called and chosen as faithful, man. They're and while Yahawashi isn't here yet, they're making war with Yahawashi. They're making war with the Lord. And really, all of this is to fight against his way, man. And they'll blow each other up, man. Incinerate each other just to keep this away from the true Israelites, the true Yasharallah. And he saith unto me, the waters which thou saw where the horse sitteth, and where the horse sitteth are the people and multitudes and nations and tongues. And the 10 horns, no NATO, which sat upon the beast, or the beast, the NATO, the 10 horns the 10 horns are the 10 kingdoms. I'm not gonna say 10, cause but are the kingdoms that sit upon NATO. Some are considered as one. Actually, I could say 10 kingdoms, but like Spain and Portugal counts. Um, for Yahweh, for power, for Yahweh BAHASHAM YAHAWASHI put it in their hearts to fulfill His will and to agree and to give their kingdoms to the beast until the words of Yahweh BAHASHAM YAHAWASHI be fulfilled, until all the prophecies be fulfilled, man. So the Lord gave it to them, man. This is the Lord's will, man. So don't get offended, man. I'll pray for you. Yeah, you may know somebody. It's cool. You can pray for somebody. You pray for the elect to be safe and secured. But then this is the Lord's will. And the Lord's word is being fulfilled, man. This is not the time to be sad, man. If you really get into just that all hurt, you can know humanitarian, you don't have faith. And the woman which thou sawest in that great city, which reigned over the kings of the earth. It's funny, man. Cry for Ukraine, man. Pray for Ukraine, man. When the prayer for you, man. Pray for Iran, man. It'll pray for Syria. And they'll pray for Palestine. The Palestine. It's kind of been a thing right now. Man, these need to be included, man. Revelation. And the word of the Lord Yahweh came unto me, saying, Son of man, set thy face against Gog in the land of Magog, that's the Russians, and the chief of Meshach and Tubal, and prophesy against thee, and say, thus saith the Lord Yahweh BAHASHAM YAHAWASHI, thy power. Behold, I am against thee, O God, the chief of the chief prince of Meshach and Tubal. I will turn thee back and put thy hooks in thy jaws, and I will bring thee forth, and all thine army, horses and horsemen, and all of them clothed with all the sorts of armor, even a great company which bucklers and shields, all of them handle swords. Persia, Ethiopia, Libya, with them all, um, all of them with shields and helmet. Persia, Iran, even India, but Iran, Ethiopia. And it's funny, with shield and helmet, Germany sent Ukraine like 1,000 helmets or something. Gomar, with all his bands, and the house of Togomar of the north quarters, and all his bands, and many people with thee. Be thou prepared, and prepare for thyself, thou and all thy company that are assembled unto thee, and be a guard unto thee. So all of these countries that just Russia really gonna be a guard unto them, man. You know how man, even NATO without America know they can't take on Russia. many after many days thou shalt be visited, and in the latter day thou shalt come into land that is brought back from the sword, and is gathered out of many people, and against the mountain of Israel, which have always been waste, but is brought forth out of the nations. They shall dwell in safety they shall dwell safely, all of them. And you know that's not the modern day Israel. Israel ain't going no safety. Thou shalt ascend, and like the storm, thou shalt be a cloud that cover the land, and all thy bands, and many people with thee. Thou saith the Lord, BAHASHAM YAHAWASHI, thy power. It shall also come to pass that at the same time shall things come into thy mind, and thou shalt think an evil thought. And what's that evil thought? They're gonna invade America, man. They're gonna make America desolate with nuclear missiles, man. And thou shalt say, I will go up to the land with unwalled villages, man. That's America, man. And I will go to them that they are at rest and dwell safely, and all of them dwelling without walls, and having neither bars or gates, to take spoil and to take prey, and to turn thy hand upon thy desolate places that are now inhabited, and upon thy people that are gathered out the nations, which have gotten cattle and goods and dwell within the land. And Sheba and Dedan and the merchants, Tarshish, with all the young lions therein, shall say upon thee, art thou come to take a spoil? Hasn't thou gathered thy company to take prey, and carried away silver and gold to take away the cattle and the goods, to take great spoil? Man, they're done. That evil thought coming to Babylon the Great. Day of Judgment. Isaiah 6. Howl ye for the day of the Lord Yahweh. The day of the Lord Yahweh is at hand, and it shall come as destruction from the Almighty. Therefore shall all hands be faint, and every hand's heart shall melt, and they shall be afraid. The ponds and shallows shall take a hold of them. They shall be in pain as a woman in travail. They shall be amazed one at another. Their faces be inflamed. Behold, the day of the Lord Yahweh cometh, cruel, both with wrath and anger, to lay desolate, and say they shall be destroyed. The sinner therefore out of it. For the stars of heaven and their constellations therein shall not give their light. The sun shall be darkened, and in his going forth, and the moon shall cause not to light her to shine. That's our nuclear missiles. And I will punish the world for their evil, and the wicked for their iniquity, and I will cause the arrogancy of the proud to cease, and the haughtiness, and I will lay low the haughtiness of the terrible. I will make a man more precious than fine gold, even a man than the golden wedge of Ophir. Ophir, man, beautiful. America used to be called Ophir. When Solomon was getting resources out here. Man, how do you cleanse the gold, man? You gotta put it in that heat until you see your own reflection, man. So we're gonna be in that heat, man. And how about some of your house? I was gonna be looking up, man. All your how about some of your house? I was gonna see his image, man. That's so beautiful, just looking down at us, delivering us up. And it's gonna take that nuclear heat to really see for us to really just be in his image, Beautiful, man. Therefore, I will shake the heavens, and the earth shall be removed from its place, in the wrath of the Lord BAHASHAM YAHAWASHI of hosts, in that day of fierce anger, and it shall be as a chase roe, as a sheep, that no man take it up, and they shall every man turn to his own people and flee, every one into his own place. From every one that is found shall be thrust through, and everyone that is joined unto them shall fall by the sword. Their children also shall be dashed into pieces before their eyes, and their houses shall be ravished, and their wives ravished, man. People don't understand how, man, the United States military ravished them, man. Man, you don't think these Palestinians, Israelis come take their wives, they can't do nothing. These Israelis come take the Syrians' wives, they can't do nothing. Man, these Russians take the Ukrainian wives, they can't do nothing. I mean, that's example Edomites. The slave master took your wife, you couldn't do nothing. Even in the 60s, man, what really could you have done, man? Well, for a very long time, man, a black person couldn't even testify against the white man. You couldn't testify against him in court. Yeah. Behold, I stir up the Medes against them. Behold, I will stir up the Medes against them, which shall not regard silver, and as for gold, they shall not delight in it, man. They don't care about these sanctions, man. They don't care about their economy. If America's just gonna destroy their economy, man, they're ready, man. All they know, man. If you destroy the economy, the Russian economy, the only thing they can do is push towards war and take the spoil, man. Take the spoil of the East, man. Or take the spoil of all the European nations. That's all they can do. I mean, take the spoil to the West. And Ukraine is West, and they're just gonna keep going west till they get to America, man. It's crazy. Concerning Edom, thus saith the Lord of hosts, is wisdom no more in Timon, the Germans? Is the counsel perished from the prudent? Is their wisdom vanished? Flee ye, turn back, dwell deep, O inhabitants of the Dan, for I will bring the calamity of Esau upon him, the time that I will visit him. If the grape gatherers come to thee, will they not leave some grapes gleaming? If the grapes by night, if thieves by night, if thieves by night they will destroy till they have enough. But I have made Esau bare, I've uncovered his secret places, and he shall not be able to hide himself. His seed is spoiled, and his brethren and his neighbors is not. Leave thy fatherless children, I will perish them alive, and let their widows trust in me. For thus saith the Lord Yahweh, behold, they whose judgment were not to drink of the cup have surely drinking of the cup. And art thou that he shall altogether go unpunished? Thou shalt not go unpunished, but shalt surely drink of it, man. For I have sworn by myself, saith the Lord Yahweh, that Basra shall be made desolate, a reproach, a waste, a curse, as the cities, therefore shall be a perpetual waste. As I have heard a rumor from the Lord Yahweh, and an ambassador is sent among the heathen, saying, gather ye together, come against her, rise up in battle. For lo, I will make thee small amongst the heathen, and despised amongst men. Man, man, they getting real small, man. It was cool when America had the only atomic bomb when they was ready, man. When they won the arms race, but when all your enemies outclass you in intercontinental ballistic missiles. When your enemies outclass you with intercontinental ballistic missiles, you're done. Like, says, thy terribleness hath deceived thee, thy pride of thy heart, oh, that dwelleth in the clefts of the rock, that holdeth the height of the hill. Thou shouldest make thy nest as high as the eagle. I will bring thee down hence, then saith the Lord. You know, the Edomite said it was K-Doors. Caucasian really means K-Door. Also, and man, less than 1,000 years ago, man, these men, man, just walking through their cave, just trying to get through the short path. This man would have been throwing spears at you, ate you, man, ate your shit, man, ate your hair, man, everything, ate your clothes off. Man, they would have took your clothes and wore until it literally fell off of them. Not them took it off. There were so many clothes that it was no longer a pair of clothing that could, if you know what I mean. Man, and that's how powerful the Lord is, man. That He raised up a base man. He raised up a base man. He made them the most advanced group race to oppress the whole entire world, man. That's why we give praise to BAHASHAM YAHAWASHI, man. Also, Edom shall be desolate. Everyone that goeth by it shall be astonished, and shall hiss at the plagues thereof, as in the overthrowing of Sodom and Gomorrah, as the neighboring cities, saith the Lord. No son of man shall abide there, neither shall a son of man dwell in it. That's so bad, man. As the overthrow of Sodom and Gomorrah, man. So as the fire and brimstone turned out whole bitch in the sulfur, man. And the neighboring cities, saith the Lord Yahweh, no son of man shall dwell in there. So, man, no son of man shall abide there, man. Neither shall no son of man dwell in it, man. That's all, America, man. So much pressure, man. When people say, oh, you should be grateful that you live in America. Like, you know, you might have a heathen parent, and you know, to a certain extent, like, you know, we don't have to go through like have a lot of the third world countries issues, but it's still kind of messy to say you should be grateful to live here. You know, you should be able to appreciate the opportunity that you may not have compared relative to other places, but to be grateful to be living in the monument of your captivity is I'm only grateful to live in America because I get to watch the fall of my enemies, man. You know, I can really pray, man. I know, man. I'm perfect, man. Yahweh BAHASHAM YAHAWASHI is justified in taking my life at any moment, man. In the most gruesome and painful judgmental way. But if Yahweh BAHASHAM YAHAWASHI bless me, man, I just want to stay here to see, man. Yeah, how I said that. Some of you may not see death, but man, I hope he's talking to me, man. I hope it's in that crowd. I hope he's talking to me, man. I live to see, to get beamed up in the chariots, man. I want to watch the destruction of America, man. I want to watch the news, man. I want to be able to look outside the window, man. I want to be able to feel the heat, man. I want to be able to feel the heat for miles and miles and miles coming away, man. I want to be able to feel the heat, man. I want to be like, shit, this is getting hot, man. I want to be seeing waves. I want to be miles out. I want to be seeing waves of destruction coming on. I want to get beamed up, man. Man, I want to see those lot to go through, man. You know, I don't deserve it, but I pray BAHASHAM YAHAWASHI can preserve me, man, so I can see, man. I can see the day of coming, man. Being that, man. I mean, hey, but not making it to Jake's trouble. That ain't nothing. That ain't terrible either, man. Yeah. Listen, 1,000 years is as a day to as a one day to the Lord, man. So, man, if you die, man, you die now. You die in Jacob's trouble, man. It's gonna feel like a sneeze, man. And you gonna be raised first. Being raised first ain't bad, man. Bad, man. But for me personally, I feel like, yeah, I gotta see this, man. I gotta see these Edomites fall, man. And that's mercy, man. That's mercy I don't for. KAL HALAL YAHAWAH. America, man, this is never to be thought, man. Never, ever, man. Every Israelite, man, every coon Israelite. I mean, a lot of these people are, they might be heathen, dark side heathens. Man, all the coons, man, you see, they're, even them, man, they're gonna wake up and they're like, man, fuck down, man. They're gonna have their head down in the kingdom thing, man. I really believe that this was life, man. This is what I really thought. Yeah. Even the heathen, even the coon and heathen, they're gonna be ashamed. I mean, not the coon and heathen, but even the alt-right Jake, even the coon and Jake, even the Jake that think, man, what's better than America, man? Oh, if you ain't happy in America, leave, man. Well, I ain't never been a slave. Well, you're focused on the past. Whatever, man. Call like, how about sending outside? Man. Just pray how about some y'all so I can continue until the day of the